Hey guys, what's going on? It's the Bassmaster Classic time of year. New product hitting the market, which I'm always excited about. Shimano once again dropping more lures on the North American bass market. These are lures that have been tried and true, used in Japan for years now, and one that we've been kind of waiting for. Last year, we saw the introduction of the World Series of Lures, where you saw the World Crank, World Pop, World Minnow, World Diver come out. And then there was also the Macbeth series of square bills. Well, this one is a play between the two. This is the World Rush. Okay, the World Rush is a flash boost square bill. So before we talk about all the details and what I've experienced with this bait, do me a favor, guys. Click subscribe down below. If you can, also click get notifications. That makes sure when we pop new videos up, they get into your feed. And if you have any questions or comments about any of the world lures that you've used or you're looking for help on a setup with them, leave a comment down below. So let's talk about this bad boy right here. The World Rush 56F FB. FB standing for Flash Boost. So cool thing about this bait is the Flash Boost. It's got that giant clear portal that you can see that absolutely has that mirror foil suspended by two micro springs that when you stop the bait, even though it's not running, that mirror is shimmering and causing attraction and making the bait look alive, which is really critical. Especially when you're banging a lot of structure with square bills, which we tend to do, and in clear water situations, any little extra bit of flash you can get can trigger that strike. So having that is a giant bonus. You notice right away the lip looks incredibly familiar. It is the hybrid edge lip design that we saw come on Macbeth, which means if you look at it from the front angle, it is actually thicker in the center than it is on the edges. It tapers up on the edges, the lip design. And what that does is it allows it to have a sharp edge which cuts into the water and digs really well. But because of its additional thickness, you've got added durability on that hybrid edge lip design. The other thing is proper tail and belly weighting. So there's a weight in the tail section of this bait, but there's also a molded belly weight, which gives this bait super wide. If you've seen any of the videos of this thing running, it's got a super, super wide wobble, which is exactly what you want. When you're striking cover with any bait and it has that ability to kick over, it brings the hooks up and away from the cover and allows this bait to run through brush incredibly well. If you haven't thrown a Macbeth through any of the thick stuff, you should try it, and definitely try the World Rush 56F FB because it has those same characteristics. Now, this bait is, for me, I use this a bunch of times a year. I can power fish it with heavier line and I'll throw 14, 16, or 18 pound FC Sniper. And I like throwing this bait because it is a little bit heavier. It's a ½ ounce. I can cast it a long way. I like throwing it on a longer rod. So a lot of times I'll use like a G Loomis IMX Pro 906C CBR. It is a crankbait specific rod that I throw this with, 7'6". Really allows me to put that bait out there. And if I run it with 16-pound test, especially fluorocarbon, super sensitive, but I can drive it through that cover and snap it out of the cover. One thing about square bills that I find is if you're throwing them in a lot of hard cover, so buckbrush and trees, a softer rod sometimes is a lot better because the rod is going to allow the bait, it's going to give to the bait and allow it to deflect over the cover rather than drive it into the hooks. But if you're fishing a lot of weed situations, which here in the north, a lot of our spring fishing really happens around those inside new growing weeds in pockets, I go with a stiffer rod like the 906 because that rod will actually have enough backbone to snap that out of the weeds and get the bait running clean again. So just something to consider when you're picking. So 847 CBR is what I use around wood. It's got that nice parabolic, softer bend to it. So that's an IMX Pro 847, so 7 foot. It's got that heavy power but parabolic. And then 906C CBR is that 7'6". Great for open water, great for casting distance, great for a number of things. I like to pair that up with a mid gear ratio reel. I'm not big on going to the XGs. I go to the HG reels. A lot of guys in cold water want to drop down to a 6.3 to 1 or a 6.2 to 1. I like a 7, 7.2, 7.3 to 1. So like a lot of the Corrados, like a 150 MGL is a perfect reel, or a Corrado DC 150 or DC 200. Great reels, have lots of line capacity, especially if you're running 14, 16, or 18 pound test. Not an issue. Premium hooks on this as well. And the other thing about this bait with that flash boost, I mean, like I said, it's a great position to be in where you can whack this thing off cover, and in the clear water, it hits that cover and you can see that thing just shimmering. Just keeps going. So it's great. It's a floating bait. If you do strike a lot of cover with the World Rush, you can almost slack it up and it will back up and float back out of the cover. So very, very snag free, very, very effective bait. Now this bait being 15 grams if you're on the metric system or a half ounce on the imperial system is 2.2 inches in length and will run around that 3 to 5 foot depth. So depending how you're cranking and what diameter line you're using and what position your rod is in, I can run this thing with my rod tip in the 9 o'clock position. I can keep it right above a high growing weed bed and cover a lot of water. Or if I'm in that open areas where I want to get down, I can lower my rod tip to the water and crank this thing down and get 5 feet of depth out of it. This bait is going to retail for $17.99 US and should be hitting the market, I'm going to assume, sometime after the Classic. So shipments should be coming in. Definitely one you're going to want to check out. I feel like this entire World Series of baits from Shimano has really firmly placed them in there as a contender in the market. The bait market is incredibly saturated, and to stand out and be unique is one of the hardest things to do. And really, we've seen so many knockoffs of other baits in the market, successful baits. So to have something like Flash Boost completely unique to the market, I think it's a massive bonus. And on pressured lakes, it's going to help you stand out from the crowd. Well, there you go, guys. That is the World Rush 56F FB from Shimano. New release this year at the 2023 Bassmaster Classic. If you guys can do me a favor, click subscribe down below. Basically, if you do and click get notifications, our videos will pop up in your feed. We try to do them, every time there's new products, I really put a focused effort to put a bunch of videos out. And we may go a month or two without them, but we try to get back on them as soon as new product comes out, just so I can walk you guys through what's available properly and give you the most detail I possibly can. So there you have it, guys. Again, do me a favor, click subscribe. If you have a comment about the Macbeth series of cranks or any of these baits or the World Series and you have questions or comments about them, please feel free to leave them below. We'll get to everybody's questions as soon as we possibly can. So I hope you're all staying safe. I hope you guys are having fun, but most of all, I hope you're all catching fish. We'll talk to you next week.